Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time and interest in learning about Redshift today. I'm Ravi Animi, and I lead product initiatives and infrastructure initiatives on performance and many other initiatives as well within Redshift. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Stefan Gromall.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stefan Gromall. I'm the head of performance engineering at Amazon Redshift. And today we're going to be talking about what is perhaps one of the most important aspects to consider when choosing a cloud data warehouse, and that's the concept of price performance.
So thanks, Stefan. So let me start with our priorities, right? So from day one, we've been focused on price performance. As you can see, on the 4 pillars of investment, price performance is at the very top, right? As you can imagine, in this climate, this is at the top of every business leader and every company's evaluation. And so it continues to be a driver for us. And we're doing everything we can under the hood to make sure that Redshift is the price performance leader in analytics. So obviously the other 3 pillars are important as well. And we've done a lot in each of those areas. Some of them I'll talk about later in the session. So let me dive into what price performance is and why it's important, right? So when you look at price performance, there are 2 dimensions to it, price and performance, right? So it's simply put, it's asking how much performance can you get for a given price? Or stated the other way around, how much does it cost to achieve a given level of performance, right? So those are 2 dimensions that are critical. And this could be, your SLAs that you're evaluating on, or you have very stringent ETL requirements to be completed in a certain amount of time. And all of these things factor into price performance decisions. So, Stefan, what do you think about price performance?
Right. So talking about only performance or only price and not considering them together, of course, misses half the story, right? And the whole issue is when you have a scalable data warehouse like Amazon Redshift, you can increase your performance with the click of a button and have immediate scalability, double your performance. So talking about a single metric of performance misses the issue of cost, right? And so that's why we look at price performance to normalize the performance based on how the data warehouse scales in the cloud.
I couldn't agree more. So now let's look at some examples to really illustrate this point. So what we have here is 2 data warehouses, A and B. One is a smaller configuration. And you can see here that the data warehouse B runs the same workload in 900 seconds on this chart. And now that doesn't tell you much about price performance, right? It just tells you that this is data warehouse B is faster. So now let's add a 3rd configuration, which is essentially a bigger version of data warehouse A. And you can see it obviously performs better, right? 500 seconds on this chart. This still doesn't tell us which one has the best price performance. The only way to look at this is when you introduce price into the equation, which normalizes the price performance evaluation, right? Now that we introduce price, you can see that data warehouse A and with the smaller configuration and the data warehouse B with the bigger configuration have the same price performance, whereas data warehouse B is a lot more expensive. So this illustrates the point that regardless of absolute performance, you have to factor in the price to evaluate your data warehouse requirements. So, Stefan, can you walk us through some of the heavy lift and innovation um, that your team does? Because customers are probably wondering at this point, how do we achieve this leadership,
Yeah, so
right?
let me start by talking first a little bit about how we measure price performance. So at Redshift, we're laser focused on improving performance of our database for real world customer workloads. We're constantly diving deep and looking at the workloads our customers are running to identify opportunities and bottlenecks and ways to constantly deliver improved performance. But one of the things that we also do is we periodically evaluate Redshift using industry recognized industry standard benchmarks against some of the other options that our customers have to ensure that we are in fact delivering the best price performance. One of the benchmarks that we use for this evaluation is called the Cloud Data Warehouse Benchmark. It's derived from and consists of all the data and queries from the standardized TPCDS and TPCH benchmarks. What I'm showing here in the top chart are the results of running the TPCDS component of that benchmark. On the y-axis, we're showing the price performance. On the x-axis is showing several different popular cloud-based data warehouses, and Amazon Redshift. Lower in this case is better. Lower means you're going to spend fewer dollars to get an equivalent amount of performance. On the bottom chart, this is showing the same data for the TPCH benchmark, another industry standard benchmark that's commonly used to evaluate database performance. And again, Redshift is coming in the best here with the lowest price performance. And I want to emphasize, in this case, we see 1.1x, 1.3x, 1.5x. What this means is that if a database is able to deliver 1.5x better price performance, it means that it can run the same workload in the same time at 1.5x lower cost, right? 1.3 meaning 1.3x lower cost. And in some cases here, shown in the top chart, it's running the TPCDS workload at 5x lower cost with the same performance, or equivalently pay the same amount and get 5x the performance. So we evaluate price performance here using these two benchmarks when we're looking at comparative studies, but are primarily driven in any case by real world improvements of our customers' workloads.
Thanks, Stefan. I'll add that this is absolutely critical for many Redshift customers who choose Redshift because of its price performance and its scalability. So that leads me to my next question. So Stefan, how should customers think about price performance at scale?
Right. That's a good and important question that isn't often considered when folks are running their initial test workloads. So just because a database can deliver the best price performance with your data and your user base today doesn't necessarily mean it's going to scale well. You might pay and be happy with the amount you're paying per terabyte or per workload. But of course, it's crucial to be able to plan forward and make sure that the database you're using is going to scale well as your use cases do. So to illustrate that Redshift is able to scale really well, we've put together this test that's shown in this chart here. So again, on the y-axis, we're showing the performance per terabyte. And on the x-axis, we're showing 4 different configurations. This is a benchmark run, again, against the same TPCDS-based test on a 30 terabyte, 100 terabyte, 300 terabyte, and all the way up to a petabyte data set. And what this shows is that Redshift scales very, very predictably and linearly, right? It's delivering near constant price performance over this huge range of magnitude. So again, illustrating that it's not only delivering the best price performance with data that our customers have today, but that we're constantly planning forward and making sure that it will scale well as our customers' use cases grow.
Wow, that is impressive. And your team absolutely does some very crucial work for us. Now that we've established price performance and what it is and why it's important and how we maintain our edge, let's talk about how Redshift team continues to deliver on new improvements that improve price performance.
Sure. One of the improvements that we've made over the years is making sure that Redshift could scale with concurrency as well. In other words, similar to the question of asking if price performance will be maintained as your data set grows, another question you can ask is, will price performance be maintained as the number of users accessing your database increases? Concurrency, right? Mm-hmm. So we've invested heavily in this ability of Redshift to auto-scale. We call it concurrency scaling. And this chart illustrates just a sample test, a sample benchmark we've run to demonstrate Redshift's scalability. On the x-axis, we're showing here the number of concurrent users issuing simultaneous queries at the database, at a sample Redshift database. And on y, we're showing query throughput. And the point of this is simply to illustrate that Redshift scales very, very linearly when it comes to concurrency, right? So the performance that customers get when they're the only user in a database can be maintained via concurrency scaling, whether it's that single user using the database or hundreds of users accessing the database at the same time. So let me talk a little bit about how we're able to achieve this, or why we think we have the best price performance. And that's really talking about our approach to performance optimization. So we call our approach a customer-obsessed approach to performance. And the idea here is that if you've ever done anything in performance engineering or any kind of code optimization, you probably know that performance optimization is never ending. There are always areas of code, of hardware and software that can be improved and further optimized. So then the question becomes not, should we just keep optimizing things, but of course, how do we prioritize? What are the most important things to improve that deliver the best value to our customers? And we use a three-pronged approach to tackle this. The first, and probably most important, is that we are really obsessed with our customers' feedback. Our customers are bringing, or thousands of customers are bringing new and innovative workloads to Redshift all the time, things that we didn't maybe anticipate, and they're innovating and building constantly. And we are very responsive and take all the feedback that we get from our customers, turn them directly into product improvements. So it's that obsession with our customers, I think, that primarily drives the vast majority of our improvements.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
The second approach we take is via fleet metrics. So because Amazon Redshift lives in the cloud, we're able to collect hardware and software performance metrics from the software itself, from the software running. And we continually monitor that, and we dive deep on things which might lead to potential bottlenecks or performance improvements. And that is another really rich source of optimizations that we work on to improve our price performance. And then the third pillar is really about anticipating the needs of our customers. Our customers don't always know what they're going to need tomorrow, or in a week, or in a month, or in a year. And so part of where we focus is thinking about where our customers' workloads are headed, right? Where the industry is headed, where we can find sources of innovation that may not be what our customers need today, but maybe what our customers need tomorrow or next year. So an outcome of this is I think is really interesting, is shown in this chart. I went back and actually looked at some data that we had from internal benchmarks going back to 2018. And what I found was that in the time period from 2018 to today, the time it took, or to the price performance of executing the benchmarks I mentioned before, went down from 1177 to 671, right? So what does that mean? That means that if you were to spin up a cluster in 2018, a Redshift cluster, load data, run the benchmark, shut it down, you'd get a bill for $11.77. If you do that same test on Redshift Serverless, our latest offering, that same test would cost $6.71, right? So as a result of our continuous effort to deliver value, to improve performance of our customers' workloads, that same benchmark has shown a 1.75x improvement in the cost it would take to run over that period of time.
Thanks, Stefan. That's really impressive what your team is doing. So let me summarize some of the things we're doing to maintain our leadership. As I mentioned at the start of the session, price performance is at the top of our initiatives, right? So it's a key pillar for us, and we've taken a number of deliberate steps from day one, and we reap the rewards today. So some of the things that we're investing in is what we call autonomics, which essentially involves looking at our fleet and automating and optimizing various aspects of performance, right? To give you some examples, automatic table optimization, right? Helps you optimize your table layout and your data layout, so your queries could run faster. All this completely seamlessly and automatically, right, through machine learning algorithms. Similarly, we have Auto WLM, which manages your workload automatically, and also Auto MV, right? So these are automated materialized view creation, where we look at your workload and seamlessly decide whether you can benefit from a materialized view, right? So these are some of the, and there are many, many other Autonomix features. I just touched on a few. So that coupled with some of the other things here, our MPP architecture has been a foundational building block, a massively parallel processing architecture. Add to it some of the newer innovations in that area, like AWS Nitro, which is a lightweight hypervisor that optimizes memory and CPU, and you can't differentiate between bare metal and a hypervisor anymore, right? That's how impressive that is. A recent feature that we released, enhancement, if you want to call it that, is on string query performance enhancements, right? So on this combined system, we were able to achieve up to 63x better performance. And that's a staggering number, but that's borne out because of our MPP and architecture and AWS Nitro. Now, very quickly, some of the other things are equally important. Obviously pricing flexibility, dynamic scaling, and of course, a big area of our platform is storage, right? Ability to scale storage to petabytes and petabytes while maintaining low latency and high throughput. I want to point you folks to some of the resources we have. I'm super excited about a brand new book on Redshift, the definitive guide, if you will, and it is authored by engineers on the Redshift service team. In addition to that, we have a $300 credit for you today to sign up and try Redshift serverless. And also, I would urge you all to check out some of the links we have here. We have a presence on social media, and we also have a dedicated landing page for price performance. And I will also say that all of these sessions that are part of Redshift Day are recorded, and you can always come back and review any of them and share with your colleagues. So in closing, I really appreciate your time and interest in Redshift, and thank you for attending Redshift Day.
Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Stefan.